There is a pattern I have noticed throughout my career, and once you see it, you can't unsee it after that. Anytime you tell someone you are planning to do something important, like an interview or exam or a role change, the first thing people say is, it's very tough. It's very tough. Not sometimes, almost always they say it. I've heard this across everything throughout my career, like, during my engineering, for medical, for MBA, for legal, for certifications, job interviews, leadership roles. You ask a simple question, how was it? And the answer turns into a story of suffering, absolute suffering. 6 rounds, 8 rounds, we had panel interviews, we had 6 to 8 months of interview process. It was extremely stressful. Even after that, I had to go through another round. They gave me a case study, I had to do a presentation. So many things come, right? Even when they have cleared it. It's not like they failed, even after they have cleared it. Especially when they have cleared it, it's more stressful for us, right? At first, I thought this information was useful. I thought, early in my career, I always thought this is useful, right? Because they have gone through it. But later I realized it was doing more harm than good for me. Because what happens next is subtle. You haven't even applied yet for that role, but your brain already starts negotiating. Maybe I'm not ready. Let me wait a few months to prepare. Let me prepare more now. Let me try later. Maybe I'm not good enough for this one. This is too stressful for me with all these rounds. And later slowly turns into never. I have seen this happen again and again. I have seen this so many times. I saw it during my engineering admission when I was trying to decide if I have to do my engineering. I saw it with medical aspirants, like when I was thinking if I had to go for medical. I saw it with certifications throughout. I saw it with interviews at big companies and whatnot. So many times. Everything sounded terrifying before I did it. And here's a part that surprised me. Once I actually did many of those things, they were not as impossible as they were described. Yes, they required effort. Yes, they required consistency. Yes, they required preparation. Yes, it required patience. Yes, it required years and years of hard work. But the fear I carried into them was always larger than the reality which was there. I started asking myself, why? Why does everything sound so hard when people talk about it? Over time, I understood something very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. Difficulty stories often grow in retelling. Sometimes unconsciously, I'm not saying consciously, sometimes as a badge of achievement. It was so tough, that's why I did it. If something was hard, it feels more valuable to say it was extremely hard. How I did it, it's just natural way of doing it. It's just human. But when you are on the receiving end of that story, it changes your behavior. It doesn't prepare you, it intimidates you. There is another problem with this. When you ask, was it hard? You get an emotional answer. We get an emotional answer. When you ask, how did you prepare? You get a useful answer. These are very different questions, and listen very carefully here. One creates fear, the other creates clarity. I learned to change how I listened. I stopped letting words like tough decide whether I would act or not based on it. Instead, I focused on specifics. What kind of questions came? What topics mattered the most? What mistakes should I avoid? What would you do differently next time? Those answers actually move you forward. Everything else is noise. I have also realized something very important here. You cannot judge difficulty from the outside. You cannot judge that. You can only judge readiness once you are inside the process. This is very important, and I have found this very useful in my career. And I wish you are listening to this and understanding what I'm trying to share here. Avoiding something because it sounds hard doesn't make life easier. It just delays that growth. Every meaningful step, Every meaningful step in a career has some friction. If it didn't, everyone would have already been there, right? So the next time you hear someone say, it's extremely tough, it is extremely tough, I did this, I did that, and that's why it was possible for me, it is extremely tough, think twice before doing it and all that. Just pause for a minute. Just pause for a minute. Don't let that sentence decide your future. Translate it instead. Ask better questions. Try to extract real information and then decide based on the facts. Decide based on the facts, not fear. Because most careers don't stall due to lack of ability. They stall because someone else's experience was allowed to become your limitation. Your limitation. Keep that in mind the next time you are standing at the edge of something very important. The story you hear is not the journey you will live. So it is important any time someone tells you, you don't take that fear into making your decision.